Former Oklahoma Republican Senator Tom Coburn joins us now. Senator, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be with you.
Certainly they've got a wind in their sails. What's happening with our economy, whether it's jobs, wages, GDP growth. One major Wall Street firm thinks it was over 5% last quarter. To go after this and try to get more done, where do you think they should focus?
Well, I think they should focus on making what they've done already permanent. That's number one. Number two is they ought to get rid of $400 billion of waste, fraud, duplication, and abuse. That would give them $400 billion that we aren't going to borrow against the millennials.
Every presidential candidate uses the term waste, fraud, and abuse. It rolls off the tongue and it sounds great. And then when they get in, they all say it was virtually impossible, like a Gordian knot. So how do you go about that?
Well, first of all, they always talk in generalities. We always talked in specifics. I can give you the $400 billion. You can look in the back of one of the books I wrote that lists $1 trillion we could get rid of in 10 years. $1 trillion. So you know, there are specifics, but nobody wants to do it. And remember, anybody that's getting money from the government isn't about to want to give it up. And when we have career politicians, their whole goal is to get reelected. Why would they offend somebody that's getting money from the government? So we don't have real leaders in Washington for the most part. What we have is career politicians that want to stay there. And so the way to change that is with a convention of states where we limit their terms, we force the government to balance its books, and that we actually say we're going to redefine the scope and jurisdiction back to what it was intended to be for the federal government.
So essentially what you're saying is that you need another grassroots local revolution of sorts to get because Washington will never fix itself.
It's not going to. And I actually believe America can cheat history. We don't have to follow the path that every other republic in history has done. And we also owe it to the young people, especially the millennials, to fix what we've created, the problem that's coming down the road. Talk to the financial people. We're at 300% of GDP in terms of total debt in this country. I'm not talking just government debt.
Sure.
I'm talking total debt. There hadn't been a country in the history of the world in 800 years of economic history that has survived that. So we ought to be about fixing that.
By the same token, every great empire in the world just seemed to have fallen asleep at the switch. Some say it's just human nature. It cannot be avoided.
Well, it's kind of like bureaucracies. Bureaucracies tend to propagate themselves. So what you need, Trump's done a lot of great stuff. You know, I don't like how he does it, how he speaks about it, but he's done a lot of great stuff. But passing another tax cut without getting rid of some of the waste, to me, is foolhardy. He passed that one bill that had all that junk in it, said he wouldn't sign another one. He should have never signed that one.
Sure. I mean, he expressed tremendous regret about that, but the $1.3 trillion spending bill is outrageous, and a lot of people were pretty upset about that. But now you've got major Republicans saying, hey, let's go for more tax cuts, and not hearing a lot about offsets.
Well, you're not, and so it's easy to cut taxes. That's easy. It's hard to cut spending. And what that requires is real will, perseverance, and people thinking about the long term instead of the short term political consequences.
Quickly, the pig book came out today. Anything stand out to you? Get a chance to
just that earmarks are back and the politicians
up over 100%.
are back. Yeah, back to doing it's $14 billion worth of earmarks in there. It's a shame. It's about the politicians. It's not about the future of our country.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
You bet,
Always admired.
The question facing us and facing our fellow countrymen is a two-word question. Very simply, who decides? The American founders had a simple answer. We, the people, decide.